From Helsinki tonight. So this explains the delay to some extent, and I apologize for that. We had a bit of a logistical malfunction depending on where we would be streaming tonight. So currently I'm based home in this wonderful cold grey Helsinki, and today I thought it would be an appropriate topic to talk about the right side. So after, a day's worth of travel, moving around, a bit of stress, a bit of excess work and action put into today's activities, it would be, I feel, a great topic to talk about the necessities and requirements and also the abilities of a right side and how we can balance the right side and put it in order with the rest of the system. Now, for you who are tuning in for the first time, this is Sahaja Yoga Meditation, which is also a spontaneous, simple way of really tapping into that innate essence of your true self. It is a part and parcel of your being where you can achieve a sense of peace with the science of silence known as meditation. Now, essentially, this meditation works with tapping into a dormant maternal energy at the base of our spine known as the Kundalini, and by, through our meditation, we are able to allow this energy to move up along our spine in a line towards the top of our head until it pierces the 7th chakra or 7th energy center that is located at the top of the skull. Now, as the Kundalini moves through the spine, it comes into contact with specific subtle energy centers, also known as chakras, and when it clears or moves into these chakras, it tries to balance them out and bring them into the center. That being, if we're too much active or if we're too lethargic, that means our instrument is out of tune. So what we want to do in order to play beautiful music, in order to be melodious, in order to be harmonious, we have to have our instruments in tune. And the strings of our instrument are the channels that run up and down along vertically across our body. And the chakras are then placed kind of chronologically, so until the top of the head. Now this is mostly already recap for you on the other side of the screen today, this evening. And we will be going through 2 phases as we usually do, which will include a beginner's meditation with initial self-realization to achieve that space of peace and to achieve that understanding of the self. Now after that we will go into the right side and how we can tackle the right side and really bring its energies fully into our use, to not allow it to control us, but to allow us to be the master of ourselves, to be the master of our own actions, and not be buffeted by emotions, stress, or winds throughout the day. And so, being your own teacher, or you could say your own guru. So without further ado, my favorite part, which might not be everybody's favorite part this evening, but I like talking about this theory slightly behind the meditation, because as a person who likes to sometimes mentalize these concepts, I like to have a clarity and understanding of what especially is happening on a kind of physical level when it comes to meditation and what it represents and what aspects it brings forth within us. Now, we have talked about the channels, I think, already quite a few times occasionally. So today you can consider this a slight deep dive into the right side. Now, as you most likely have heard before, there's 3 channels, and as we've mentioned before, there is the left side, the right side, and the center channel. And it is through the center channel that the Kundalini rises above. Now, of course, these channels aren't separate, they intertwine, so they kind of do a, much like if you'd be doing, if you'd watch a plant grow on a wall, it doesn't grow straight up. There's twists and there's turns. It's organic. Similarly, our body is essentially organic being. It's not a linear logical system we can appropriate to that extent. But we can find ways of understanding how this spontaneous organic system works within us. Now, we have the brake, which is the left side, the accelerator, which is the right side, and in the center you have that free space. Now, of course, this is a slightly reductionist approach, but it usually helps in bringing the ideas into practice with the meditation. Now, we've talked about the left side, I think we've talked about the center channel, but the right side especially is a bit of a curious case. It's considered slightly simple to tackle because if you're feeling right-sided, you just have to find a way to slow down. Meditation is essentially the key to doing that. But there are many cases, and I know of a lot of people, and I can speak from a personal experience as well, that many find it difficult to slow down their thinking or thought process. And this can be during meditation. They can have difficulties reaching what we call thoughtless awareness, which is the space above and beyond that usual mental process that takes place on the 6th subtle energy center. And that is usually because all our action, all our future thinking, all our activity accumulates as residual thoughts that oscillates and whirl around this area of the head. So the more we kind of grab and try to understand a concept or try to achieve something, the more we see ourselves as the person who's doing something, the act of doing itself. That gives us of course it gives us a purpose, it gives us a direction, it gives us a linearity, but in a way it is slightly illusory in nature. It's not necessarily us who are committing to these tasks. And the more we enmesh our identity with the actor, more with a mask we put on day to day, the more we identify with the ego. And the ego, of course, is the terminus point of our right side, which is located here on the left hemisphere of our brain. So the right side rises up, slaloms up all the way, and crosses here onto the left side of our head. And the more we think we're doing, the more we achieve, the more we acquire titles, the more we feel full of ourselves. These are then symptoms of an excessive ego. Then, of course, that can retract us, distance ourselves from that reality. So the more we are in this area on the head, the greater the distance we have to the heart. And when there is a large gap between these two organs, these two modalities of being, then there can be a type of a split nature. There's a type of a duality that grows in between you. There's a divide between you and the divine that takes place, between that natural energy that should blossom in a spontaneous, beautiful manner. And let's get into the practical parts of how we can bring down the right side. But first of all, how do we notice we're right-sided? That's number one, because it's always hard to catch the symptoms of, okay, what's what and what are we especially working with? How do I know I'm left-sided? How do I know I'm right-sided? Simple answer would be, of course, on a vibrational level and using vibrations to assess your condition. So, for example, keeping the hands in front of your chest area and then focusing your attention on the palms of your hands and on the digits of your fingers, there is a possibility to feel a certain heaviness or lightness on either palm, and this is usually indicative of a sign that is more exhausted or stressed. Now, of course, in the beginning, this vibratory awareness takes some time to develop. Therefore, there are other ways of also kind of cueing into if you're right-sided. Now, one is your attention. Attention and your right side are very much indelibly connected to each other because the seat of your attention is located here where your liver is. That being so, because your liver produces fat cells that then rise up and help you do your thinking process, your thought process. So there's a link between these two organs and how they have a, one nourishes the other. So there is a symbiosis or a interdependency between these two organs within your being. So the more we think, the more we require that energy that's necessary for action, thoughts, and also speaking, the more we really tap into this right-sidedness. And the root of the right side is kind of in the area of our void, that being the Swadhisthana, and especially this area here on our right side where our liver is located. So one really clear symptom is lack of attention. If you feel your attention is running hither and thither, from there and there, when you lack the ability to focus your thoughts in a one-pointed manner, and you notice it kind of just running about, running amok, then that's usually indicative of right-sidedness. Also, multitasking is horrible. As a male, I can't do it at all. I'm very linear in that manner. But that's another topic completely. In any case, also heat. Right side, the excess of activity, as we know, the excess of work, I think. I'm not a physicist, but I know that when work is inputted, there's usually some kind of waste energy that comes out of a process. The waste energy usually manifesting as heat. Same here. So when we do activities and we put work in, there is heat that lingers within our body. We can feel that heat on the liver. Now, if that heat isn't dissipated at the level of our gut, it might rise up to the chest, might rise up to the throat area, and it might also rise up towards the head. That might cause some blocks in thought processes or headaches. But there is this innate heat that you can feel, a restlessness that's palpably present. And that is also another symptom of being right-sided. Also, one point is arrogance. You can also notice it in the qualities of people, those who are slightly more dominating, those who are slightly more arrogant, those who kind of cut directly to the chase of things, can be usually seen as a bit more right-sided. But the trick is that when you're right-sided, you don't notice it yourself because you are caught up in your own little balloon, floating 10 feet off ground. And it's a nice place to be. but sometimes it's unnecessary. And when you are on your own hot balloon ride, everything looks very nice from your vantage point, but you are slightly detached from everything. Um, and that might cause a certain lack in understanding when it comes to communicating with people, and you might find yourselves in difficult situations where you kind of try to push your point onto others without having them being in a receptive state. So that's when you are at loggerheads with people, when there is a clash between thoughts. And if you put two egotistical people in a room, close the door, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a show, usually. I think we've all been in a situation when we've had two stubborn-headed people go at it for quite a moment. It gets heated, as the saying goes. In any case, a few of the symptoms of the right side. Now let's get into how to fix the right-sidedness. So after you have correctly deduced that you're right-sided, not everybody is, you can be a combination of both left and right, depending on your chakra level. It gets a bit more intricate, we'll forget about that for now. Cooling down the right side. Now there's a few ways we can do it, and actually as a Finn, we have a certain predisposition to cooling our right side in a natural way, because essentially we live in a cooler for about 6 months of the year. So half of the year we live in quite a cold landscape, and cool environment helps you to dissipate this heat naturally. There's also always a natural balance happening between your body and your surroundings, where it tries to keep a certain innate temperature constant, and in order to do that, it kind of regulates the temperature. It regulates in accordance with the temperature outside. Therefore, when you're in a more colder temperature, it does create more heat, because the heat's also escaping off of you. Now, when you're in a colder climate, you kind of have a natural passive boost to helping you kind of clear your right side. So as a Finnish person, I rarely had to do any methods to really take my right side into control. And I've noticed the more I go into warmer climates, it's not that good for me. I notice that I can become quite active, and I don't really have the necessary tools to adapt to that certain change in climatic conditions. But there are a few tips that I could have known and I could have used in these situations. One is a very simple solution, and it sounds supremely simple, but often they are simple solutions, is to put an ice pack on your liver. So the liver being that center of that heat, kind of like a furnace. So you want to put that ice pack. You can buy it from stores. You know, it's not a smart idea to buy, you know, a bag of cold peas and just smack it there. It's best to have just, you know, one of those kind of ice packs you can constantly freeze and refreeze and use over and over again. That's excellent for this process. In addition to that, there are then methods we can use to, on a subtle level, bring that right side into balance. One way, as we've done before, is that since the right side operates with the essence of the air and the ether, there is upwards momentum to this energy, whereas the left side is a downwards momentum. There's these opposite vectors that kind of keep each other in balance, the equilibrium. Now, in order to dissipate that excess heat that might be within your subtle system, we have that trick that we've probably shown you before, which is keeping your, the camera's not proper, I'm just going to go slightly here. Keeping your left hand at a kind of a 90-degree angle, facing backwards, and then your right hand just open on your lap. Essentially, to simplify it, it's a chimney. So, certain position you have. And you can also feel, if you keep this certain posture for some time, and you try to keep your attention within and balanced, slowly but surely you'll notice kind of a wave of heat moving within you, and a pulsation that might start taking place at the palm of your hand over here and spread across the hand like so. Now, this is just a personal observation, and it's always good to kind of test and see what happens in different instances. But this is indicative of the heat being transferred into your surroundings and into the air element that surrounds everywhere. So that's essentially working with the right side. Now, how long should I do this? That also depends on your own state. Some people can do it for quite some time, but it's always important to not do things, to do everything in moderation. So don't sit in this position for 45 minutes and be like, okay, now I'm really making this happen and hopefully it will bring down my right side. You're only tricking yourself there, because the more you think you're doing something, the more you're actually jumping back into that vicious loop of I'm doing this, and that just kind of tightens that tightens the problem. It only exaggerates the issue. So you really have to, as a right-sided person, you really have to step off that high horse for just a moment and let things work out in their own time. Now, it sounds unbearably difficult. I'll give that to you. It can sound really difficult to begin with, but it is a lovely moment where you can bring down that heat, bring down that level of activity to one that is a lot more comfortable to yourself and to the people in your surrounding. Now, if you feel like this absolutely is not working and you have to do something more extreme, don't. But there is another method we can do, which is keeping the left hand open on our lap. And the right hand is essentially doing a circle up across the left side of our body and down across the right. Now, this movement you can repeat a few times, and you can also repeat it until you noticeably feel less stubborn, less tight, less winded up like a clock. Because what you're doing here is you're trying to counterbalance or offset that weight on the right side by bringing up the left, because essentially it's one system. So affecting one part of the system, there is a reaction on the other side. So if we bring up our left side, as we naturally try to do after work, when we come back home, we want to take it easy, we sit on the couch, we flick on the TV, we take our favorite drink, get a bag of chips, get a bag of popcorn, pet the cat. Those are essentially ways to kind of slip more back into that left side. Well, that's also possible to do in this meditative technique, and especially if you feel you can't really feel that peace, or you can't really calm yourself, and there's these techniques you can use to kind of achieve that balance once again. So lift up the left and bring down the right, and this should be also done with a certain amount of attention and not kind of just flicking your hand about like this and that's not going to work. If you go super slowly, that might help, but just keep it sensible. Keep it sensible, not too extremely silly, but sometimes you can be silly, because that's also an excellent antidote for right-sidedness, which is laughing at yourself. Now, if you can take things with a fair dose of humor and see that there is a big play, a big joke, a big great scriptwriter behind all the sense and nonsense that happens in your day-to-day life, then you can take things a bit more light-heartedly. Now, that's also a great state to achieve if you can, but possible with a bit of meditation. And that's what we'll get into next. So, that was a bit of theory. I hope you're still with me. Let's do the initial meditation, which is going through the affirmations, chakra by chakra. We'll do a shorter version this time. And then we will try to bring that right-sidedness into control. Now, if you are feeling more left-sided, you can just listen to the techniques of the right side, but it's maybe not necessary to replicate the routine, because if you are left-sided, bringing up the left side, putting up the right side might exaggerate the underlying issue. So if you feel left-sided, you can still watch and join, because at the end we'll have a nice silent meditation that will hopefully bring us into that state beyond our thoughts into thoughtless awareness. So let's begin. Now, since you've already been with us already for quite some time, we start our meditation by raising our Kundalini. So for those of you who haven't done this before, you use your left hand, raises up, and your right hand goes around like so. This is essentially to bring your attention inside and start the meditation. And then you tie it once across your head. Now, bringing up your hand across the center channel assists the Kundalini energy in rising to the top of the head, and doing it thrice represents the 3 channels that run across our body. And it's good to keep your attention on the hand as you bring it up. There you go. And after that, you do the semicircle 7 times across your body. This is representing the 7 chakras, and in a way, it's bringing them into the center of your body, into alignment with the center channel, and into connection with that innate maternal nourishing energy of the Kundalini. We can place our right hand on our heart. You can either keep your eyes closed or open. It's up to you this time. We can feel the beating of the heart underneath our chest as it supports all the organs within our subtle and physical being. Over here is the seat of the self, and this self is always watching, always witnessing, always observing the routines and activities we go through on a day-to-day basis, in and out. And the more we come closer to this self, the more we can understand what we're made up of, what are our conditionings, our strengths, our weaknesses, but most importantly, it gives us an underlying sense of unity between you and me. It's to see that living spark of being in everyone and in everything. And when you can see beyond the mask of ego that we present to each other in any interaction and receive within all. And in order to do that,